always sunny down in Mexico. The sun gets high when I get low. The only way to get there is to let yourself go. Good times are made in Mexico.
Welcome to the BAI podcast. It has been a while. I know we've been doing our lunchtime lives, which are great. I hope you're tuning into those every Friday at 1 o'clock on TikTok. But we are back in studio finally with some conversation about those who have started the destination wedding planning process and decided that they want to do a destination wedding and they don't know where to start.
Well, today we are going to be talking about pretty much the destination wedding process. So for a lot of our brides, this is their first experience with a destination wedding. They're the first of their family and friends, so they're kind of in a spot where they don't know what to expect because it's very different from a local wedding. So today we're just gonna talk through the steps of what it actually means to contract for a destination wedding and then the timeline you can expect moving forward up until your wedding date. When a bride decides they want to do a destination wedding, really the first decision is picking a destination. So if a bride is coming to you and they're just completely fresh and they're like, I want a destination wedding, I don't know where to go, I don't know the destination wedding hub spots, what is some tips and advice that you tell brides to kind of help them navigate which destination they want to go with?
Okay, so the first thing that a bride and groom need to do once they decide they want to have a destination wedding is where we're going to get married. You can go to the big three. You can pick Cancun, you can pick Dominican, you can pick Jamaica, and those are the main hubs, primarily because those are where the most all-inclusives are going to be. And when you pick that destination, a lot of times the reason is you want everything package deal, and those are the easiest to go to. Many destination wedding brides also, would want to go to Europe. Maybe you want to go to Greece. Maybe you want to go to Italy. But you have to decide where you want to go before you just start getting into the nitty-gritty of the resorts themselves.
I think this is a pitfall couples fall into is they start searching on Instagram, they start searching on Pinterest, they start looking into the vibe of the actual wedding and the resort before they really choose the location. And they're too many other important factors. I mean, I know it is absolutely about what you want for your wedding, but it's also about your guests and how easy it is for your guests to get there. And I think a lot of times couples will come to me and like, I saw this beautiful resort for a wedding. And once we actually look at the logistics of how difficult it is for her guests to actually get there from where they're traveling from, and they're taking 2 layovers and they're traveling for a destination wedding, which your guests are only going to stay 3 or 4 days. The practical reality of guests taking 2 layovers on a 3-day wedding, or 1 layover on a 3-day wedding, taking 9 hours to get to a destination just so they can be there for 2 or 3 nights, that reality hits hard. And so I think Airlift controls a lot of this conversation is, okay, where are your guests traveling from? How easy is it to get to these destinations? And then let's find out, okay, where can we get to easiest? Which has no stops? Which has only 1 stop, but it's only total travel time of 5 or 6 hours. But if you're talking travel time of 10, 12 hours, you're asking a lot for your guests.
Not only like air travel and ease of access to the location, but also budget points, because I like to explain to guests, Mexico is going to be the most bang for your buck, not only for flights, but for resort options, wedding packages, all of that. But there also are a lot of couples that are like, well, I really don't want to do Mexico. And then I explain more of how the Dominican Republic and Jamaica are probably going to be your next 2 best options, just because all 3 of those locations have the most all-inclusive options, so it's going to give you the best variety and then the best pricing as well, because they're going to stay competitive with one another. If you're looking at St. Lucia, you maybe have 4 or 5 all-inclusive options there, and then maybe 1 flight a day. Pick and choose what your priorities are. From there, you can choose a destination. Let's be honest, they all have really nice beaches. They all are beautiful tropical locations. It's just more of what is going to fit better for your group and for your budget.
If you're planning a destination wedding, how do you set your priority? What do you guys think the next priority should be?
That is very subjective. I usually like to ask my brides and grooms, what are your priorities? So sometimes it's food. Sometimes it's experience. Sometimes it's just we want to have a good time and we don't want to have to worry about anything. Sometimes it's I want a luxury vibe and we want to relax. It's very subjective. It's really important for us to ask those questions and kind of get a vibe of what you're feeling. The moment you step into destination, to the transportation over to your resort, and when you walk into the resort and the presentation that you get there, and then moves into the wedding experience. What do you want as far as that? Like, are we looking for that sunset on the beach? Are we looking for that rooftop overlook? What are we looking for? More naturey? It's very subjective. There's a lot of questions that go into it, but that's where I like to ask the brides and grooms, what are your priorities? One of the biggest priorities that I get is food.
I think we often run into an issue of brides picking a vibe before they pick logistics.
That's Pinterest and TikTok's fault. I don't mind when brides come with that. It hones in on resort options a little bit more. And when they have an idea of what they're looking for, then during the consult call, you can kind of put into their head to think more about like, oh, what's your budget? What do you want the resort experience to be like? How do you want the actual wedding week to play out beyond how your wedding venues look? Because then once you get both the answers, you can kind of find a sweet spot within a resort of that. But I feel like the main things to focus on when you are in the beginning process of a destination wedding, once you do choose a destination, is probably going to be budget, because that's a huge thing for a lot of couples. And then, like you said, ease of access to the resort, if they want to spend an hour and a half in a transfer, if they want to be in the hotel zone, if they want to do an excursion like a catamaran. I feel like those are the main things to probably focus on. And then from there, you can go into resort options.
Brides don't focus on enough is what their guest profile is. I think brides tend to focus on what they want for their wedding, what their vision is for their actual wedding ceremony, locations, like that type of stuff. They're not booking a resort for your trip, right? You're not booking a resort for your honeymoon. You're booking a 3 to 4 day experience for 50 to 100 guests with different budgets, different personalities, different expectations.
It's a good point that you said that, actually, because I asked that on every single one of my consult calls. I'm like, what's your group vibe? What is it like? When you're not doing wedding events, how do you picture your wedding group? And I feel like asking yourself that question as a bride is going to really help you lean into resort options, because there are resorts that are like party 24/7 all day, every day. And then there are a lot of resorts that could have maybe no music playing during the day. So that is another really big thing to think about too, the wedding perspective and then the vacation perspective. So it's like, yeah, each are equally important, but you definitely want to make sure you're prioritizing both, because both are going to be the entire wedding week experience. And every resort guest is going to tie that vacation, wedding week to you specifically. A bride chose a resort. Now, what are the next steps after that?
As soon as we choose that resort, I'm immediately sending an email out for a room block contract. I'm sending out a request to the resort with a tour operator to find out what are our room block terms, what are going to be the rates of all the rooms, while simultaneously sending out an email to the weddings department and CCing the bride and groom and saying, hey, Susie and Sam, they're getting ready to get married and they want to get married at your resort on this date. What's your availability and what do your packages look like? Can you send that over to us? And then the bride and groom can confer directly with the wedding department from there on out as far as the wedding side of things and what they're planning. And then I can really focus on the room block and get them that proposal over as soon as possible. And they can compare and contrast with one or two if they want to. But it gets the ball rolling as soon as they get down to, okay, I think this is it. We get that ball rolling immediately.
Contracting the wedding side and contracting a room block is a big step in the destination wedding process. So when you get to this point of receiving a room block proposal, you review the rates, and then at that point, that's going to be kind of the decision point for you as a bride or a couple. It's going to say, okay, I want these incentives, I want these rates, I want to go ahead and move forward with the contract. So at that point, you're going to go ahead and get your little list of what rooms you think your group is going to book. Obviously, you're not going to know everyone's reservation request, so this is more of like an estimate of what you think your guests are going to book. And then once you do go to contract, it's not completely solidified. You can mix and match, move rooms, move dates. Really, the main point of your contract is to make sure that you get the rates locked and the inventory locked. But once you do, it's not set in stone. You can change things around how it'll fit your group. I almost recommend to do it beforehand, is to confirm your wedding date with the wedding side, because there's really no point of a room block contract without a wedding date. So typically, I'll say a wedding contract is about like $500 to confirm your date. And then you'll go ahead and pay that with the weddings team. And then with your travel agent, that's where you'll do the room block contract. The terms vary, but I'll say we see the most of $100 per room for your contract. So say if you were going to block 20 rooms for your group, that'd be a $2,000 deposit. And then that would sit in what is called your group account until all the reservations in your group are booked and paid in full. And then once that happens, your deposit gets refunded back to you, or it gets used to pay towards your wedding week reservation. So you get the deposit back one way or another, and then same with the $500 deposit, that also gets put towards your wedding.
There are some aspects there where contract negotiation does come into play because, like you said, Julia, what we see most common is $100 per room. Room block deposit for most resorts. Sometimes, and depending on the resort, there is room for negotiation there and say, hey, we want to block more rooms, but I'm not doing 10% deposit. I need to keep it at $100 per room. There's certain situations there where we can step in and begin negotiation with the resort, or even, on the, hey, this promotion ended, can we get it extended for this couple? Those type of things. There's absolutely where your agent can help step in and get those things done for you. And the thing is, you don't even know about them.
As far as BAI is concerned, and all of our agents, we don't charge a fee. So it costs you nothing to work with us and for us to manage that aspect of the room block with you, the communications, and making sure that the weddings department's responding in an appropriate time frame as far as, island time goes. Why not use that crutch to lean on when getting that contract? Because it's going to be overwhelming, because it's going to be your first destination wedding contract, right? So we've seen them come in time and time again. We know what to look for. We know when things are off, and we can work through that with you and for you.
You don't know what you don't know. And a bride that tries to contact the resort directly, yes, can you do it? Sure. Just like real estate. Can you sell your house on your own? Sure. Yeah. But if you don't know the industry, you don't see the contracts all the time, you can get yourself in a horrific spot.
I was going to say, I couldn't imagine dealing with penalties and attrition dates as a bride who didn't know the ins and out of a destination wedding world, because 24 hours goes by, you could be $10,000 in the hole because of that 24 hours.
If you do this on your own, you can see a lot of times in the contract, it might say 10% is due here, another 10% is due here, 50% is due here. We set your booking date and your payment due date before you start hitting any risk for those penalties that is going to cause you that huge debt that we had talked about previously. We set those dates. It's usually about 135 days before travel, where everybody needs to be booked and paid for in order to not cause penalties for you with the room block. Having said that, that doesn't mean at that date no one can book. That just means that's when we have to release all the extra inventory back to the resort. If we want to ask for more, if somebody wants to send a reservation request in the same way they do with the website afterwards, they can. It just might not be at the same exact terms.
How we approach reading every single contract is worst case scenario. What happens to our couples who are the ones signing the contract? Worst case scenario, what happens to our couples? What are they financially responsible for if nobody comes, or if only this many rooms booked? And so that's how we approach it, and we're looking at it to protect our couples from those penalties. You don't want the couples to be responsible for rooms that they did not fill because they thought guests would come and they did. And we're not talking about insignificant amounts of money. We're talking about literally life-changing amounts of money that will absolutely bankrupt you and have you selling everything you own. So this is not a small deal. You want an expert to guide you through this. So this is not something you want to mess around with. And even on the perk side, that kind of, you don't know what to ask.
Even then, you don't even have a main point of contact. Like,
Right.
Yeah, you can reach out to the resort, but who you're talking to at the resort probably isn't going to be the person with the right information. They're just going to say what they need to say to get you off the phone. So it's like, you don't really want to do that to yourself.
The resort, let me tell you, when you're talking to front desk staff, their biggest concern is how to get you out of their face and make it somebody else's problem.
Next step is once you go to contract, have your wedding date confirmed, then we create a wedding website where your guests go for all the wedding information, for our contact information, and then most importantly, it's where they'll go to create their reservation for the wedding week.
One of our custom websites. We do this for every single group that we have. This is where your guest is going to go to get all the information they want. We're getting married, the story of them, telling the guest specifically, hey, in this case, they secured 50 rooms for the group. This basically just gives them some information about the wedding, about how to book. Obviously, this wedding just happened. Countdown's at 0, but we'll put basic hotel information on here, travel information, transportation information. We'll put all the details about that, ground transportation, room categories that we've held in the group. We put all of those on the website as well, so guests can get all of the information they need about booking. The reservation request form, that's on here as well. Where a guest is just going in and saying, hey, I want to stay from, whatever date to whatever date. All the room categories that we have listed here are rooms that we actually held within our room block. But the resort has more room categories than this. So if somebody wanted a room that's not booked in the room block, they would just select the unlisted room category.
Once they fill out the reservation request, whoever your agent is, they'll process the reservation. And then once it's confirmed, the wedding guest, they'll receive a confirmation email. And in that email, they'll receive a payment link. So if your guests want to submit payments in increments, they can go ahead and do that. Otherwise, they'll automatically be charged once the payment date comes up. So that's a really nice thing too.
Try to make it as easy as possible for the guests. That's what we do. When we go to contract, a lot of couples really struggle with knowing how many rooms, or not even how many, but which rooms, because we're not asking how many rooms do you want. That's part of it. But we need to know specifically, which rooms do you want specifically? Do you want a junior suite garden view? Do you want junior suite tropical view? Do you want junior suite partial ocean? Whatever the case may be, how many of each? How many swim ups? How do you guide couples through that? Because I think that's a big mistake that couples make, is they almost will try to go to their guests and start asking them in that point. And I'm like, don't do that, guys. It's just a guest. How do you guide your couples through that?
So the brides and grooms are going to know their people, right? So are your people bougie? Do you have that wacky aunt that likes to spend money and she's going to get the presidential suite for 2 weeks? You know your group best, but I would say isolate those people that you know are going to want those elevated room things, the swim out, the ocean fronts. But most of your room block should probably be the lowest room category. Probably about 70% of your group to be the lowest room category, because people are spending money to come to your destination wedding here. So most people are going to book the lowest room category for 3 nights. They're going to fly in, have the wedding, and then fly out.
Yeah, I always say that too. Like, your guests the best, and I'm not going to be able to predict what your guests are going to book. But I always started off by saying it's better to overestimate than underestimate, because with your deposit amount, you get it back one way or another. So if it's a few extra $100 to hold a few more rooms, you're getting the money back one way or another, whereas vice versa. If the resort sells out, you're kind of out of luck because you're not holding the rooms. And then as for choosing different room category types, I always tell my couples to do majority of the lower end room category. Do majority of your hold at the lowest end, and then have a variety of maybe like 4 to 5 different room categories. And then, like you said, Tim, if that one aunt wants to spend $2,000, the room probably isn't booked, so we can go ahead and request availability and rates at the point of like if she wants to do something like that. Because I always say resorts, when they start getting booked out, the lowest end room categories are always the ones to go first. So you just want to make sure that you're holding enough for your group. Oh, and another thing I don't think I mentioned is I usually recommend doing a 4 to 5 night hold just to give guests a block of when to book within. But even beyond that, if you are only doing a 3, 4, 5 night hold, your guests can still book 7 nights. But like you said, James, it's just subject to availability and rates at that point. But resorts are super good at honoring contracted rates.
Most resorts, when we add rooms, they add them at the same original contracted rate. But there are some that have very big heads, and they want to maximize their revenue 100%. So they don't care when you book; they're going to give it to you at whatever the rate is then. But this is also where an experienced agent comes into play. With our relationship with the resorts, they know who's asking these questions and asking for these exceptions and changes, and what they know. If it's us and they say no, we're not going to just lie down and take it. Like, I'm sorry, we're going to fight for our customers.
I do feel like one of the main key points there is communication. If you aren't hearing back, or you're not getting the response you want, we are here in your corner. If we need a faster response time, we will. If you're told no, we can't have that because you don't have X, Y, Z, we're going to be like, okay, well, actually, like, let's talk about this. We're going to fight for you. That's what we're going to do. That's what we're here for. We're here to be at your side and to help you out the whole way. So if you're running into any issues, or you're feeling nervous, reach out.
And with the room block side of things, like that's gonna be probably like the main focus at first, just because that's getting up and built. But once your wedding date is confirmed, things kind of go stagnant for a while. You're not gonna get a confirmed wedding coordinator until about like 6 or 3 months, depending on the resort that you're looking at. And then from there, they'll be the ones to help you with the planning and events and such. But even if you are talking to them 6 to 3 months prior, you're probably not finalizing stuff a month, 2 weeks, the day before you're actually going to have your wedding. Trust the process. These wedding teams, they do it in and out every single day. Once it's your day, they're going to know what to prioritize and how to make it happen.
The couples that really understand that my wedding background and that I understand these resorts and that I've shot weddings at these resorts before and that I understand the logistical side of things, they really utilize me. They'll text me and they'll say, hey, this is my guest size. How big of a dance floor do I really need? These are just questions that you really can't get the answers to from a regular basic travel agent. Or, one that recently came up was, I really want to have a plated dinner and I'm at this location. Why can't they do a plated dinner? I don't understand. Well, a regular travel agent, I don't know why they can't do it. Like, if you don't know the logistics of that particular resort and how far the restaurant where they plate the food is compared to how far it is from your actual ceremony or reception location, and the fact that if they do that, everything's going to be cold. You just don't get it unless you've been in the industry and you know the logistical side of how weddings actually work. So that's what sets us apart and why y'all should be talking to a Team BAI agent always, not just a regular travel agent.
And those type of questions, they're asked every single day in our Facebook group. So I can't stress it enough to brides. Like, once you're in the beginning stages of planning, join any and every Facebook group, because brides will be leaving reviews. They'll be asking the questions you didn't know you needed to be asking. And then once you join the Facebook groups, you can join our lives, because these are the type of questions that we're answering every single week. So it's like random one-off things that you probably didn't think about, but you need to know.
Thanks for joining us on another BAI podcast. If you have any questions that you want answered on our BAI podcast, feel free to submit them on Instagram, TikTok, send us a DM or send us an email, and we'll be happy to discuss them. Until then, if you're thinking about having a destination wedding, reach out to a Team BAI agent and schedule a consult on our website. We will see you guys next time.
Sunny down in Mexico.